justified when people are occupied. Resistance is justified when people are occupied. Resistance is justified when people are occupied. Russia, stop the war. Stop Russia, stop the war. Stop Russia.
My name is Katya, and I'm a Ukrainian. I'm 25 years old. I live in London.
Yeah, so my name is Semen Polishchuk.
My name is Yulia. I live in London at the moment, and I teach academic English and research in one of the colleges for international students.
Good afternoon. My name is Pavlo. I am the main speaker of the Support Ukraine group here in London.
And this is the third anniversary of the full-scale invasion in Ukraine. We're here at a march to commemorate the soldiers and doing it in front of the Russian embassy as a sign of protest.
Well, at the moment, the East is fighting really fiercely against Russian aggression, and it's really hard for us because there are a lot of Ukrainian people who volunteer to go to the military. There are a lot of Ukrainian military men and women who haven't seen their families and haven't been home for almost 3 years because they don't have a privilege of getting a vacation like the rest of us. If they take a vacation, villages and cities and towns are going to be occupied. And if you don't know what happens under Russian occupation, I'm going to tell you that it's going to be torture, rape, looting, murder, kidnapping. More than 17,000 of Ukrainian children have been kidnapped and illegally adopted by Russian families, including Russian ombudsman, which is a war criminal herself. The situation in the East is really, really hard at the moment, and that's why we need support.
I mean, what's going on in Ukraine, we all know what's going on. It's genocide. Russians are killing civilians every day, every week. This has been going on for 3 years, and nothing has changed except for the world not perceiving it the way that they did at the start, and we're losing a lot of the attention that we were getting before.
But to be honest with you, the frustration, like for everybody, is that there's been no action from our allies that's been significant enough for us to see a difference on the front line. And you could talk about government loans and the donations coming from government, but really we continue to raise money individually for our friends and family on the front lines. We send them money to buy things like helmets and cars, and that's still an issue. Obviously, everyone's really exhausted, and we want to go back home and be able to return and visit. And yeah.
One of the most important and infamous things that Trump has said lately was that Zelensky is a dictator. He hasn't had elections when he should have had elections, that kind of stuff. This is, of course, a product of grievous misunderstanding of Ukrainian politics by the Americans. As in the Ukrainian constitution, a president cannot hold elections during a time of war. It's as simple as that. Zelensky is not contradicting the Ukrainian constitution. He is upholding it, in fact. I don't think it's just ignorance. I don't think it's that Trump doesn't know. I think that it's that Trump doesn't care. Sikorski, one of the Polish speakers, has said a few days ago that what Trump is doing now is something called reconnaissance via combat. What does that mean? It means that he's using this aggressive rhetoric to get the gist of the deal that he can get from Ukraine, from Europe, from Russia, blah, blah, blah. I understand it is a legitimate tactic. However, it has been used in a very destructive way. There's been a lot of effort, a lot of good work put into caging Putin internationally, caging the Russian regime internationally. Trump is just waltzing in, opening the cage, saying, come out, you're one of us again, you're one of us now. Which is a lie. Putin is much weakened. He's not a world leader anymore. Even Obama, back in the day, called him a regional leader, not a world leader, and I agree with Obama in this regard.
Concerning Trump's comments, I mean, it's hard to take them seriously. It's hard to take anything that guy says seriously, to be honest. Calling Zelensky a dictator when he has Churchill's statue in the White House just because we haven't had the elections, which is the exact same thing that happened during World War II. But now it seems that he's turned a blind eye. After one meeting with Russia, surprise, surprise, he comes out saying all these things about Ukraine. It just shows that it's really clear as day that he's Putin's puppet, and this shows in his ratings, right? Even the Americans are starting to not like him, even those voting for him. Because I am actually an American myself. I've got the American passport, and it's funny to see my American friends starting to dislike the guy. This started way before the comments. This started way before this, but now even with the comments and even those against funding Ukraine, I think they're coming to realize that this guy's all talk and nothing else. That's my 2 cents on the issue.
Well, he said something that was really factually incorrect. He said he has a 4% approval rate when it's about 57, which is higher than Trump's. And he said he's a dictator, which is funny because we can't have elections during war, obviously, because how would you ensure that they're fair and democratic and everyone's represented, especially in the territories that are occupied. So we cannot have another election, and we do think Zelensky is doing a job that is a very difficult one, and running an election right now is not feasible. So he's not a dictator, he's just a political leader during a very difficult time for the country.
So the claim that we don't support Zelensky and the claim that we started this war is an absolute nonsense, because there is a very simple way to check it. The war is happening in our territory, which means that someone else came to our territory and is killing our people. I think Trump just wants to end this war at any possible cost, and the only thing that he's worried about is his own rating. But I was saying before what exactly is happening on the occupied areas, and that's why giving a piece of Ukraine just to stop the war at any cost is not the answer. Because in 2014, our Crimea, our peninsula, the Crimea, was taken away. Then one region after the other, they were taken away from Ukraine, and this whole time, Ukrainian people who are elderly or disabled or for some other reason they cannot leave those territories, they have been tortured, blackmailed into getting Russian passports. They have been deprived of basic amenities such as proper water, electricity facilities, high-quality food products. So all of these horrible things, including rape, psychological pressure, propaganda in schools, creating fake republics like DNR and LNR that are not acknowledged anywhere in the world. All of these things are going to be happening on every region of Ukraine that will be given away to Russia as a way of quick end to this war and of boosting Trump's ratings. So this is what he is obviously interested in. It doesn't align with our interests. Our interests are to save as many Ukrainian people as possible and not allow Russia to take more and more of our land every 5 or 10 years. This is what we want.
My thoughts on the future: the killing will stop and Ukraine will prevail. No matter what, will show that no matter what other dictators say and what other under any circumstance, we stand strong, we stand united, and through all of this, we will rebuild even stronger.
To be honest with you, it's become more and more of a pessimistic thing to talk about, because right now the two options in my mind are either we need to have a European army get involved, and we're not prepared for that. The UK supporting maybe on a logistical side more than trench warfare, or, we surrender and then delay that same conflict by a couple years, because it's going to happen anyway. It's just a matter of when. But I do believe that eventually, maybe 20 years' time, Kyiv is going to be one of the greatest capitals of Europe, and everyone's going to be wanting to go there, and it's going to be a thriving, country, economy, and a people. Woo! Like it deserves to be. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
There's one silver lining that I can see in this whole situation. Other than that, it's all bad news. Every little bit of it is bad news. One silver lining, which is the Europeans have started running around like a bunch of cockroaches. They don't know what to do. Oh, what's that? Trump is going to ditch us. We got to do something. Finally, a little bit of urgency in the Europeans. However, this urgency will be very difficult to materialize into actual commitments, into actual action, considering we got Trojan horses like Orban and Fico in the European Parliament. So Europe needs to unite. There needs to be a European united army. We cannot be dependent on America anymore. That's my message overall. America has shown that their politics change on a whim. They pick their leaders with a popularity context. Hype is what decides who becomes president in the United States. We cannot depend on that. That is very unreliable, very irresponsible, and honestly quite stupid. So my message is, very bad news lately. There can be a certain level of silver lining. Trump could backpedal his rhetoric very easily, as he has in the past. One day he says one thing, next day he says another thing. But this proves unequivocally we can no longer depend on America any longer. Independence, unity for Europe. That's my message.
The hopes for the future, to be honest, a popular opinion among Ukrainians is looking for support from the European Union, because it looks like European Union should be as interested in this as we are. A lot of people think that this war is not going to go any further than Ukraine, and this is entirely only our problem. And I think it's not true, because Russian imperialistic ambitions have been very evident and very clear for a very long time. If you watch Russian propagandist TV channels, you will hear the claims about taking Berlin back, taking London, taking Prague, taking Warsaw. These narratives might sound like a joke at the moment, but as we can see, Russia doesn't really acknowledge any limits. It doesn't acknowledge Geneva Convention. It created ecological disaster in Ukraine by ruining the dam and flooding a huge piece of land, creating the ecocide together with genocide that they are creating. So this is why I think Europe should be the main ally of Ukraine, and obviously the United States as well, because as we know, a lot of sane people in the United States do not support Trump as president. So this is why we are trying to stay strong, we are trying to stay optimistic, we believe in ourselves. Sometimes we feel isolated in this war, I'm not going to lie, but even in this meeting today we have seen a lot of foreigners, we have seen a lot of British people, European, not a lot of Russians, unfortunately, who don't support this war. They should be here as well, but we are staying hopeful, we are staying strong, and we are not going to exchange our country bit by bit every year to satisfy someone else's interests.